Yeah. Positive. Yeah, it's positive energy. Positive. Yeah, it's positive energy. Yeah. Positive. Yeah, it's positive energy.
Yo, it's positive vibes equals positive energy. Prior to coming in the video, man, I need you guys to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's Dezignerjay, DezignerJayCollections.com. This is where I study the book, man, and I like to give little gems that I'm learning. In this video, man, this is real interesting because nobody's ever said this. Matter of fact, they don't even mention things like this. And I see why. I see why because people like to hide the truth. You know what I'm saying? And in this life, you have to seek out things. You can't allow people to tell you anything because this world has many lies, man. And if you don't do your due diligence and learn these things, man, I feel sorry for I feel sorry for a lot of people, but I didn't even know this. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know these things when I read it and stuff like that. I seen it and I was like, yo, that says what it says. You get what I'm saying? Like that means what it means. And it was actually a confirmation for me, man. But the title of this video, man, is Dreadlocks in the Bible, a mark of African heritage among the prophets. You heard that right, man. The title of this video is Dreadlocks in the Bible, a mark of African heritage among the prophets. And today we're gonna go over that, man. A few of the prophets mentioned about dreadlocks and how actually they were actually talking to God and things like that. And God even I think he grabbed one of their locks or something like that, or something. It was something like that, man. But one of the verses had dreadlocks in there, and I was just like, man, these people were black. You get what I'm saying? These people were African people, of black descent. You get what I'm saying? And today we're gonna go over that, man. So it's DesignerJaySelection.com. I'm gonna leave a link in the description box along with my clothing brand, Positive Energy, which is inspired based off of biblical, the Word of God, and you guys can check that out, man, after the stream. But without any further ado, let's get into it. So the blog states, dreadlocks in the Bible, a mark of African heritage among the prophets. Throughout history, dreadlocks have been a significant symbol of spirituality, strength, and identity, especially among African people. Many believe that the biblical prophets, particularly those who followed Nazarite vows and lived set apart lives, wore dreadlocks as a mark of their consecration to God. In this blog, we will explore scriptural evidence from the King James Version that suggests prophets had dreadlocks and how this style is deeply rooted in African heritage. Yeah, man. Anytime you see dreadlocks, locks, man, that's that's our hair. You get what I'm saying? His hair was once again, his hair was white like wool. You get what I'm saying? Woolly hair. You get what I'm saying? Just like this, woolly hair, man, cotton hair. The Nazarite vow and the locks of hair. One of the clearest references to dreadlocks in the Bible comes from the Nazarite vow. A Nazarite was someone set apart for God's service, and one of the key requirements was to let their hair grow without cutting it. Hey, that's interesting because I have read something else in the Bible too, and yeah, he was like kind of mad that they cutted their hair, like they did fades and stuff like that. And that was kind of interesting to me. I was like, man, that's crazy because that's actually our modern day style of today. We get haircuts and we cut our hair, and these are things that God actually doesn't like. You know what I'm saying? I remember a verse in the in the book how he says like don't cut your hair like the other nations or something like that. He was like don't have baldness around your ears. Like this is something that's old. And I was like, wow, like how long have we been cutting hair? You know what I'm saying? Like cutting hair must be like something of old. You get what I'm saying? Because I read in the book, I'm like, wow, so they was actually doing hairstyles and stuff like that then to kind of separate themselves. You get what I'm saying? Because obviously it must have been a pull of the same nation. And then, when you get a pool of the same nation, you get people that's trying to do different things. You know what I mean? That want to stand out and I want to look different and things like that. So I think it was probably a whole bunch of things going on like that. A bunch of nations trying to look different, but there's only one nation that is, selected or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But let's get into it. It says, all of the days of the vow of his separation, there shall no razor come upon his head until the days be fulfilled, in the which he separateth himself unto the Lord. He shall be holy, and shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow. And that's in Numbers chapter 6, verse 5. The word locks here indicates that their hair naturally formed into strands or coils, which strongly aligns with the texture of African hair that naturally locks over time. This description directly supports the idea that many of the prophets had dreadlocks as a symbol of their devotion to God. And then it says Samson, a man of strength with locks. One of the most famous biblical figures associated with dreadlocks is Samson. The Bible describes how his strength was connected to the 7 locks of his hair, which never which were never to be cut. Wow. So he had 7 locks that he didn't want to cut, specifically as a symbol, a representation. And she made him sleep upon her knees. And she called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head. And she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. Wow. So dang. So in Judges chapter 16, verse 19, a woman afflicted a man, and he didn't have his strength anymore. That's wild. The mention of locks in this passage further confirms that Samson had hair that naturally locked together, a characteristic commonly found in people of African descent. His strength being tied to his locks also suggests that his hair was more than just an aesthetic choice. It was a sign of divine power and the covenant. Mm. Jeremiah and the holy haired prophets. So Jeremiah and the holy haired prophets. The prophet Jeremiah also makes references that align with the natural hair texture of African people. Her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk. They were more ruddy in body rubies. Oh, let's say her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk. They were ruddy in body than rubies. Their polishing was of sapphire. That's in Lamentations chapter 4, verse 7. This passage describes the purity and dedication of the Nazarites. But historical and cultural context suggests that these men were not of European descent. The Hebrew people living in the Middle East of Africa were of a darker complexion and often associated with curly or woolly hair, another strong indication that their locks were a natural part of their identity. Uh, oh, okay. Saying this passage describes the purity. Her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk. Mm, they were more ruddy in body than rubies. Their polishing was of sapphire. This passage describes the purity and dedication of the Nazarites, but historical and cultural context suggests that these men were not of European descent. Right, the Hebrew people living in the Middle East and Africa were of a darker complexion and often associated with curly or holy hair. Oh, okay. Yep. Just basically identifying that they were Middle East. Exactly. Ancient Israel and African connections. The Bible makes it clear that many of the Israelites had deep African connections. Moses himself married an Ethiopian woman in Numbers chapter 12, verse 1. And the tribes of Israel had close ties with Egypt, Cush, modern day Sudan, and Ethiopia, and other African nations. Yeah, like these were African nations, man. The imagery of hair texture and the tradition of letting locks grow aligns with the cultural practices of many African tribes, reinforcing the idea that the prophets of old bore a striking resemblance to the African people of today. Wow, man, that's crazy. That's wild. Mm. Okay, the conclusion: dreadlocks as a sign of holiness. Dreadlocks as a sign of holiness and heritage. Dreadlocks in the Bible were not just a hairstyle; they were a divine symbol of holiness, strength, and identity. The Nazarites, Samson, and the prophets all maintained their locks as a covenant with God. Given the clear descriptions of their hair texture and their connections to Africa, it is evident that these men were of African descent. For believers today, wearing dreadlocks can be more than a personal choice. It can be a connection to a biblical history, as a reminder of the strength and spirituality of those who came before us. Let us embrace the heritage that God has given us and walk bodily in the legacy of the prophets. Amen. And that's what I'm saying, man. You gotta you gotta be very careful, you know what I'm saying, with believing things because they have this imagery of whoever and it doesn't even come close. You know what I'm saying? Because we have to match up the things that align with, where they were at, what they were doing, and the people they were of. You get what I'm saying? So, but seeing the dreadlocks in the Bible, man, is a clear coat and clear sign that, you know what I'm saying, these people were of African descent. And I just wanted to come through with that with this video, man. It's Black History Month. It's February, and the Bible is our history. Like this, the world is not telling us this, and this is something that I feel like people should know that the Bible is Black history. Like it is. I don't understand what people are thinking. Like, you get what I'm saying? They tell in the book, it tells us that there was a nation um, that was under bondage of what we call slavery. Bondage is just another word for slavery. It's all the same things. You know what I'm saying? Our history leads us to the book. You get what I'm saying? And I'm going to prove that in more than one way. You know what I mean? But positive energy, man. Stay tuned to the next video. I have a clothing brand inspired by the book. You know what I'm saying? And it's positive energy. See you on the next one.
Yeah.